Hello, and welcome to this webinar where we'll be discussing the technical details for GP Pro EX version 5.01. Okay, some details about the release of version 5.01. You can see the initial release of version 5.01 was actually back in December of 2025, and then we had an update to 5.01, which was a .001 update. You could see it had a couple of minor issues with the manuals, basically, and then a little bit of a more major issue with concerning the operation log that was repaired in that update. There was also a 5.01 language pack that was released, and these were language packs only for that version, and you could see the supported languages from French to Korean. Then there was also a 5.01.002 update, which included a code assist driver for Windows, basically for WinGP, the Windows runtime, and then an addition of the GE driver for the GP 6000 series. Okay, so just a short agenda. We'll talk about the new features in 5.01 and then some of the communication protocol items that exist. Okay, so how do we update to 5.01? So basically this is what you'll see on the ProFace HMI Design Studio website. The existing 5.00 licenses are still applying to this version. This version can exist with a previous version 4 version. Okay, with 5.010, you had an online update with the online update tool that brought you up to 0.001. And then if you want to get either the language pack or 0.002, currently today you have to download that from HMI Design Studio. All right, moving on into the new features. So this slide here is basically showing us a laundry list of all the new features in 5.01. There are some here that in particular that I have highlighted, and we will focus on those for this webinar. Okay, moving on. So moving on into the hardware support in version 5.01. So in 5.01, we're now supporting the GP 6000 Advanced series. Okay, and we'll have another video that will talk about the hardware for the GP 6000 Advanced series. We are looking at also another part of the GP 6000 series is the handheld unit. Okay, we're also supporting. We have support for the PSA 6000 IPC support has been added to basically to the EX editor, and then we remove support for legacy HMIs that are not supported by version 5 anyway. Okay, and then you can see over here on the right hand side we still have some limitations with the GP 6000 on version 5.01, but we have eliminated the limitation on remote HMI, IPsec, serial multi-link, and then we're now supporting ProFace Connect. Okay. Okay, so here's the information about the GP 6000 series. So you'll notice it includes everything from a DIN box, right? So no display unit, all the way up to a 21-inch. You can see they're right here. So we have a box starting at 10.4 inch up to 21-inch, and here are the resolutions. So everything from 15-inch and up is HD. Okay, so just a small little minor point about the DIN box unit. This is basically in here for future support. So this is when we have the ability to connect an external monitor to one of these boxes. This is where you'll select the available resolutions, or this is where you will select the resolution for that monitor. Okay, some more details about the two handheld models that are being released and supported by version 5.01. You can see here two different sizes, 7 and 10 inch, and you can see the 10 inch is actually kind of it's in a portrait mode configuration. And then you can see, you can just kind of look through here to kind of see the different characteristics. And then you can see here's a note about that new resolution is, even though it's in this unit, this is not a settable resolution in GP Pro EX, obviously for anything else other than this unit. Okay, again, just to further, this is kind of an interesting point about when you're converting. So if you're converting from previous handheld models, this is just a little function where we're giving you the option to convert not based on function key number, but based on function key position. And you can kind of see there's a difference between the position and the numbering between the old and the new units. Okay, so for moving on, this is another minor point. This is about supporting for the PSA 6000 and how we will stop to support some of these legacy models. And then what I'll do as we move on in this presentation, I welcome you to, if you want to get any more details on some of these slides that I will not spend a lot of time on, feel free to pause the presentation, and also feel free, if you have any comments or questions, please post them in the chat and I can respond to them. Or I guess not in the chat, but in the comments. Okay, so let's move on. Right, again, just real quick, if you need some more support, please pause. But these are more minor features that I'm not going to kind of dwell on. I think it's sufficient if you want more details that are here in the slide. Okay, moving on, expanding some project size abilities, some parts limitations. Okay, so now we're moving on to a little bit more of an important feature. So kind of a new key feature in 5.01 is supporting a PDF viewer on the GP 6000 series. And then you could kind of see just some real important points. So it's displayed as a separate application from the GP Pro EX runtime. So on a GP 6000, you're essentially in the GP Pro EX runtime, and when you trigger the PDF viewer, it's essentially running another PDF application separately from the runtime. The runtime doesn't stop running, but the PDF viewer is launched. Okay, it's launched in full screen mode, and it's only allowing one file at a time. The files need to be stored on external storage. The PDF viewer is controlled by a control word and has a sub-display of alarm parts. Okay, and I'll show you that here in the next slide, what we're talking about there. The search function is in English. Scripts, or if there's any scripts or links in the PDF, they don't work. It's not supported in the handheld series, unfortunately. There's no pinch in or pinch out. You can slide within a page, but you can't change pages with the slide, unfortunately. And then it's not supported in simulation, GP viewer, or remote HMI. And then there is some memory limitations that actually will get addressed and have been addressed in some further releases that are coming soon. Okay. All right, so here's some more details about what that PDF viewer functionality looks like in the GP Pro EX environment. So basically what you're doing is typical stuff. You've got the typical control word arrangement here. So you've got a control address and then you have a file number. So essentially what you're doing is, as you can see here, you're putting PDF files with a specific name, obviously, onto external storage, and then you have a file number reference. So you're putting the file number reference into the first control word, and then you're just triggering to show or to close the file. Okay, over here on the right, this is where if you want to have the sub-display, so if you want to be able to touch on an alarm in the alarm display object and have it launch the viewer, this is where you control that from. And then you can see the offset address in here is obviously that's the word that's going to control what file number you're going to display. Okay, you can kind of see here's a little picture of what it kind of looks like in the HMI itself in full screen mode. with just obviously one page viewed like that. Okay. All right, moving on. Again, just some more. This one is another, if you're interested in this, this is something interesting, changing the IP address by system variables. And then again, and then basically the next one is just kind of a nuisance thing. Kind of, we're just basically changing what some of the text looks like in the user interface on models that don't have SD card slots. Okay. Again, so here's some anti-alias stuff. Again, if you're more interested, please pause. Okay. Here's some more cybersecurity. We're giving you, we're adding an enhanced user ID function, basically, which is forcing you to make more complex passwords. Okay. Supporting secure communication for the Proface remote HMI client. So if you're interested in this, please check out the details in this slide. Okay, so again, in support, just again adding something to the property sheet. Here's a note about the touch buzzer with WinGP on the PS6000 series. Again, if this is stuff that you're interested in, check it out. Okay, here's something else, and then here's another one that we'll talk about. So now in version 5.01, GP Pro EX is actually coming in a 32-bit and a 64-bit version. They're two separate versions. And basically, you can't have both versions installed, but you can't run them at the same time. And basically what this is for is we're recommending, at this point, what we're recommending the 64-bit version for is for larger projects. It's basically. So a little bit, just kind of, again, just some small, not a lot of detail here, but just to make you aware that this is a new version that's offered, basically the 64-bit version of GP Pro EX. Okay. So kind of in that same realm of GP Pro EX version 5.01, we now, obviously, because we're into 5.01, we can now revert back to version 5. So we can either do that through the reverter or to basically do a save as back to version 5. Okay. And then again, removing some unsupported feature on current models. So basically the PLC ladder monitor in the camera viewer. Okay, again, this is kind of interesting, some new sample projects are in GP Pro EX by default. We added some new PDX. Again, if you're interested in this, check out the slide. Okay, here's just some minor stuff about Proface Connect. Okay, here's an interesting one. So this is about the new, so we are supporting this new XV USB tower light driver. That's the name of the driver, and it's basically to connect the to the new XV series tower lights from Schneider. And is right now it's currently using this specific architecture. Okay. Okay. So here's something interesting. Here's another function that we'll talk a little bit more in detail about. So basically, in version 5.01, we are now supporting OPC UA client. Okay, so basically we're doing an update of the OPC UA functionality in GP Pro. In the previous versions, it only supported OPC UA server. But now in 5.01, we are adding the ability to talk to use an OPC UA client. Okay, and what you'll see is it's effectively it's occupying the same driver as the server. It's just adding the ability to be a client, so it's not, so it's only occupying the one driver. And then you can see here we're obviously adding dialogues to support the client. So obviously to tell what server you want to talk to, and then using the tag data from the server, etc. Okay, you can see here's just some other dialogue. So this is talking about how we're using the tag data, and we can basically import and add and create the tags manually, or if we have a file from the OPC server, we can actually import that also. Okay. This is, again, further support. This is talking about how we do secure communication. Essentially, we're telling it to go into the security configuration, And then this is just kind of showing you what those dialogues look like. Obviously, there's a lot more details here to the steps of registering certificates and creating certificates, etc. This is just kind of wanted to show you some screenshots of what that looks like in the GP Pro EX environment. You can see here, this is where you're effectively setting your different securities and what you're going to support, in this case, in the server. Okay. Okay, moving on to the OPC UA client. So basically the OPC UA functionality is supported today by the SP5000 series, the ST6000 series, and the GP6000 series, the new release. Okay. Another communication item in here is the supporting secure communication for Siemens TIA portal Ethernet. So essentially now we can basically just check this box and we are enabling secure communication. You notice, and this is supporting only in the WinGP, so on the Windows runtime, and in the GP6000 series. Right? And then if you're doing it in the WinGP runtime, we need to install basically OpenSSL to make this driver work. Okay. One more item about protocols is supporting the Cloud for GP6000 series, and then some keyints improvements and some Omron improvements. Okay. So thank you for watching. Look for, like I said, look for another video where we will talk about what the GP6000 Advanced Series actually is, and then we will also look for further releases of GP Pro this year. There will be shortly, there will also be a version 5.02 coming shortly in the summer. So thanks for watching.